People were very respectful with their questions, but they asked hard questions. I think we probably fielded 25 questions in an hour, hour and a half, but it's nothing new for me. This is how you're supposed to legislate. You're supposed to talk to people in communities, and you're supposed to bring their voices to the State House. And if you don't do that, then people should hold your feet to the fire as an elected official. And so I hope that people felt like I gave them thorough answers, I gave them honest answers. I didn't have any notes. I came in just to talk to people about issues that were important to them.
Okay. As far as the most important takeaways you've got from people here today, since you're running for governor, what is the most, the three most important issues that you've taken away from what they've had to say?
I think most of the questions had to do with education in some aspect. People are concerned about healthcare, of course, about what's happened at the federal government level. People are very concerned about the job market, especially ones that have moved outside of the valley and then have decided to come back. And I think that safety in communities is always a big issue. I was very surprised because the heroin epidemic didn't get brought up until I kind of brought it up at the end just to gauge people, but that normally gets brought up in every single town hall meeting that I go to across the state. I'm going to Akron to do one on Tuesday, and we'll see a similar setup where there's no real staging of questions. They don't give you inclination about anything that is going to be asked. You just go in and just shoot with people. And I think that people do appreciate it, and they remember who comes and who doesn't.
The energy sector,
there was another.
Ohio won, basically. Should taxpayers really be required to pay for their mistakes, their investments in nuclear energy, and they're not seeing where the trend was going towards cleaner energy with natural energy? Why should Ohio residents be required to pick up, First Energy's bad management, but yet they're making millions in bonuses, the upper management?
Well, just so people at home know, there's not a bill that has been proposed. It's only a discussion that's kind of being whispered throughout the halls of the State House that there may be a proposal for AEP and there may be a proposal for First Energy, and it would be a rider on consumer bills. Now, I don't think that that's fair. I think that if we are going to do riders, it should be for some economic investment, something more, something different, something that the people will actually get benefit from. And so I'm not against riders as a whole, but there has to be a very good reason to do a rider rather than, hey, we want to shore up our books.
Okay, when it comes to job creation and infrastructure, a lot of bad infrastructure in aging, and with it brings water, something critical to people and their life and their safety. Everyday use, what basically has been your ideal that could help create jobs and bring safer water to residents?
Yeah, we have to prioritize the spending of taxpayer dollars in underground infrastructure and above the ground infrastructure. So roads, bridges, but also our underground infrastructure when it comes to storm water sewers, when it comes to lead pipes under the ground. We have to make those upgrades eventually for roads, bridges, and underground infrastructure. And that should be our first priority every time we do the budget. Instead, that's the last priority kind of on the tail end. And that's why people complain and see all the problems about our infrastructure in the valley and throughout the state.
Very quickly, I have one question, then I gotta go.
Yeah, sure.
Not that I don't want to talk to you, Joe.
No, I'll tell you. It's okay.
Opiates, obviously, it wasn't asked today, but what do we got to do, especially here in Trumbull County? It's something you're gonna have to obviously address during your campaign for governor.
Yeah, we've put together some information coming from experts across the state, and we found that you have to do this in three ways. First, you have to invest in educating kids. Then you have to invest in the police force and our first responders in order to give them the tools to adequately deal with the problem. But then you need a strong rehabilitation system with wraparound services on the back end, because you can't just send somebody to jail for 30 days, have them come out and think that they're just going to be back on track. There has to be some safety nets in place to help that person re-navigate the waters, because at that point of their life, they've probably lost their house, they've probably lost their family, they've probably lost almost everything that is important to them, and they don't feel like their life is worth anything, and that's why they continue to use. So there has to be a bigger investment. All we've done in the state is the bill that we passed a couple of weeks ago would increase penalties for drug dealers when it comes to heroin and fentanyl. I mean, that's a piece of it, but that's not going to solve it. And that's not going to solve the fact that you have thousands and thousands of Ohioans that are addicted to heroin today that you have to deal with. So I think there has to be a three-part method to solving the problem, at least denting the problem, but it can't just be piecemeal stuff.
Where does that money come from?
Again, prioritizing spending first on things that are important instead of tax cuts. In the governor's budget, there's a $3.1 billion income tax cut. $3.1 billion can go a long way in investing in the heroin epidemic, investing in infrastructure, and investing in our kids in schools. And so I think we make the investment rather than do the tax cuts. And that way, we can be building for the future rather than just doling out money and hoping that rich people reinvest in the community. That's the concern. Some do. Some business owners will get a huge tax cut and they'll buy new machinery for their business. They'll hire 5 extra people, and that's great. But some don't. We're just giving them money back and they're doing whatever they want with it.